Okay, so people can hear me, I see. Hello, Stingin, and uh, hopefully I pronounced it okay, like Dalcard XPX 13. Hello, and thanks for joining. I'm glad you can hear me fine. Um, what else can I say? So, uh, so yeah, I um, I made this stream to further talk about the final Visions of V chapter, which you have seen that I've translated on the day it came out, and I'm so sad. Like, gosh, I cried so much that day, and then I started having my coughing fits and all that because I got so emotional because it was over. Like, this was a project that I picked up that I made my own for like over 2 years, and to see it coming to an end, it was just so sad. It was so more meaningful to me because let's say I was working, closely with it, always looking forward, like most of you, each month to see a new chapter, and um, whenever I would get, the chapter, I would, have my fun, analyzing words and trying my best to um, convey what it says from Japanese to English. And as you have seen many times, that I have provided notes when maybe it wasn't enough how I could convey it, or if they were like, let's say, special. Um, well, saying special, you'll see what I mean further when I show a certain page in the chapter that um, through the use of the Japanese text, how there can be so much more that you want to try to um, convey, and it's either you have to do it like on the side, like explain it as a note, or provide it as an explanation somewhere, maybe on the same page, or maybe at the end of a chapter, depending on how it is. And gosh, what can I say? I even after like I posted the initial translation, and as you've known, if you followed me all this time, when you have seen me translating other stuff for DMC, that I would I would notify us on Twitter, especially that I made modifications, um, that I'm gonna rework stuff, adding things like I've been doing recently. Whenever I don't know if I get new information, something, and I could add, or uh, I want to phrase it differently. That's the beauty of being a fan translator, because so much more liberty at what you can do, and also given the fact that as a fan translator, if you're passionate about um, what you love, of course you pour your love, your care for what you are doing, and that's what I did for Visions of V, because I believe that a lot of us didn't want something like what happened. For example, like I think I I say this as an example a lot of times, regarding how we the fans got materials for the series, and in terms of translation, localization, some were not so great. And again, for example, I'm saying like the how the DMC free manga, for example, like I still I'm just so why why do they treat the fans like that? And I don't know how else to say but disgrace the that piece of work. Because when I got into um you know getting to know more about the lore, and I discovered just how awful the translations were for the manga, the official ones. I was like, why are they doing this to us? Why? Like missing out important stuff and altering so much of the dialogue that will give such a different perception of the characters and all that. And I was like, no, I'm not that kind of person. Like that's why I've been doing my own translations for the fans that I like, and always trying to deliver just the author's intent. So I'm not the kind to insert my own writing into a translation, because just why? Why would why would you do that? Like if the original author didn't say that, then what right have you as as just a translator? And you're not the author, so you shouldn't do that. So that's my policy. So yeah, that's what I've been doing for like the past 3 years since I got more into DMC, and when I got to pick up Visions of V as well. As you know, in the beginning, there was one scanlation team that handled it, and they stopped abruptly. I don't know what happened to them. Why they dropped the project like at chapter 19. And after that, we got um, well, I also thought that at that point the manga would be translated by Platinum, whom you guys know. She made a summary for the DMC final novel Before the Nightmare, and I thought she would continue translating for Vision of VE, because that would mean it would have been in good hands. But she only did like one chapter, and then another person came to translate, and then came another one. And then I was like, I know that from earlier chapters I would find a few. I found a few mistakes. Some of them were really, should I say, like quite drastic. I think if you have seen me talking about it, the infamous mistranslation of Virgil not knowing what money is and not knowing how to eat a burger, stuff like that. Unfortunately, they never got fixed, and at the time, I didn't butt in. Let's say I didn't try to contact them because I didn't feel like it was my place to um, try to correct them, you know. But maybe if I did or someone else would have did, maybe those things would have been corrected. But now the only way that people will know that it's a mistranslation is to look into, I don't know, I'm probably not the only one who wrote about it, but um yeah, they can only find out from this way. So even though I was like already translating another manga for another fandom that I love, I was like, okay, now I'm into this fandom. I'm into DMC, and I'm gonna try my hand at also doing these, and uh, do it in the same manner like I did for whatever other stuff that I translated, and provide notes and stuff that even the first scanlation team did not, uh, provide. And there are a lot of things that you had to explain the nuance for, so you can have a better understanding, of the story, of characterization and all that. And yeah, with now with the final chapter, this is what I'm also trying to do now. Well, I would, usually I had for other chapters, I had notes that I would write and post on Twitter, Tumblr, and explain, trying to analyze the words. So yeah, basically this is what I'm gonna try to do now to further with the occasion now that the manga has ended, and we got an amazing chapter, an amazing final chapter, and I'm glad if even a few people are interested to hear how what were the choices that I made um, during um, the translation for this chapter. Yeah, so how I will work on them, what I take into consideration when I translate them. I mentioned this. I probably mentioned this a few times on my socials, that some stuff, like, so get the idea that uh, when translating, it's never quite so direct. And as even just as a fan translator, I managed to do some writing that I'm proud of, like adding references that fans would understand. Um, some some translations were based on a few occasions. I even had some stuff that I like. For example, I wanted to use certain words. Like I even had to if and if possibly those fits did not fit in the speech bubbles, because wow, this manga did not have like ordinary standard shapes for the speech bubbles. They were all sometimes very narrow, very tapered at the top or the bottom, or very narrow. And there were occasions where I had to manually edit those bubbles myself just to make room for the sentences that I wanted to translate. So yeah, it was so much fun. So yeah, that's what would happen during my process. So um, doing the translations mattered based on context. So all the imagery that I have, the information that they will provide me to construct the sentences. Sometimes I would have to change sentences again just to accommodate into speech bubbles. It was sometimes it was quite challenging, but like I said, even though I had some struggles sometimes, again, I had fun translating this manga. Maybe I should now go into it, go over, and if it hopefully will help to hear how I analyze each individual. Well, maybe not individual, let's say, but even just hearing like more the direct translations, that you get like further insight on the characters and the story, because yeah, that's what I always tried to do with them. So okay, so on the first page, nothing. Okay, so on the first page with the dialogue, like I mentioned, that the way I translated, so I translated as oh yeah, I said, my, what an awful face. So I chose that because I I felt that it worked both ways, regarding the nuance and looking at the image. So maybe I couldn't discern so well just what is that expression, a little very little face, like because, well, what V says, the adjective in Japanese, he says hidoi, which hidoi can mean awful, terrible, and you can, in some contexts, you can even adapt it, say scary. And there's also these nuances of well, how should I explain it? Like, so he's saying that like the way Verge was looking, like sort of a strong, intense gaze, you know? That's what I would put it. So I considered that, and also adding to, so making it say, my, what an awful face. It could have worked like both ways if, depending on how you see it, that V was referring to that little Virgil was giving him like a strong, piercing, intense gaze, or that the fact that he looked, so because of it, he looked like being like sort of miserable, let's say. So yeah, so this is how I came to reach, with this line here, with the translation for this line. So to move on to the next one, we're having Virgil here, who wanted to keep V away from him, and well, here is what V is saying here was pretty straightforward. He's saying that I only came here to bring you something that you forgot. So he wants to give him his book, that he says that this is something that both of them really, something that they really needed, or truly needed. Yes, hontou ni means really, truly, or very. So something that was okay. Oh, here. Okay. So you might have noticed, if um, for this page, and coming back to what I mentioned earlier, on some occasions, what words can I use? Like, let's say within their dialogues, and can be occasions where I have to, either on the respective page or somewhere in a note or at the end of a chapter, that I have to add, because here, um, so here where I'm pointing with the mouse. So in my translation, I wrote in English, I wrote, power alone is not enough. We have here a special reading. So we have two completely different readings. We have one reading here for these three kanjis that you might recognize. Together they spell Yamato. However, next to the kanji, we have what is called furigana. So furigana is a reading aid. So that gives you the pronunciation of kanji. However, it's not always all the time that it will give you like the proper pronunciation of the word. It would sometimes be used in a special way, kind of like, how should I feel, like it wants to say like um, more things at the same time. Which I gotta say, I do like the technique. And usually this is whenever you see, like if you read a word in Japanese and you know that's not the usual pronunciation for it, and you have so what it says on its furigana is completely different from the pronunciation. That's the intended reading. So the author wants you to read the sentence like that, and when it comes to translating, it would usually be that word in furigana that would be translated. So, like in the case here with what we have here in V's speech bubble. So, like I said, the free kanji here they spell Yamato. However, the furigana, so the intended reading that I have here is chikara, which is power or strength. I chose to put power because we hear it heard so many times, you know. So by putting these two together, so while V is saying that power alone is not enough, or well, I could give you an alternative here, just so you know that I would have had another options. So he's saying chikara dake ja dame nanda. So dame, you might have heard this probably a lot of times, anime, manga. Dame basically just means no. Essentially, most of the time, it just means that something, you know, if you say something is dame, it won't do, you know? So that's the idea. So it's kind of like saying it won't it won't work, it won't do, it won't. That's why I tried to adapt it, and I said that power alone is not enough. So yeah, and you've probably seen that in my translation that I did write some around here. I wrote that you have this reading in kanji and you have this reading in furigana. You basically can read that V. When he says power, he equates it to Yamato because Yamato is the representation of power um, for Virgil. So that I really do like how you know, it creates you know, this sort of thing. Yes, Dinjin. If I mispronounced it, I'm so sorry. So in you say that in chapter one, the word little brother, with Dante written in furigana, and the word hunter, you know, with David Hunter. Um, yeah, I can't quite recall the page right now, but yeah, essentially that. So it gives you. Should I go look into it? Cause why not? I mean, you're gonna see here what I'm give you more tidbits into other chapters. So it was chapter one, you say? Let Let me check. Okay, chapter okay. Uh okay, I think this was the one from okay, here. Here. Here's the part that you mentioned with so we have here the kanji that says ototo, which is little younger brother, but it gives you the intended reading, so the furigara reading to be Dante. So it already gives you more information, although it would have been possible to rewrite it a bit and include both of them, but maybe I can say for sure if it had a better flow that way. So yeah, we've had I don't recall how the scanlation team made the first translate the first chapter, if they possibly just went with saying Dante or saying little brother, or maybe they even tried to make uh, a combination, and saying something like, "Hey, Dante, his little brother," because you uh, if it's possible, if you think that you can do it, then you can also put it this way. I also had occasions where I was able to take in um, both terms if I felt that um, they would explain things better. Uh, okay, and you mentioned something about. Uh, okay, yeah, it was here with so we have here these four kanjis that together the first two mean akuma, so demons, and um, the other pair that means uh wait, what was it, karyudo? Because my god, I can't recall how the pronunciation were for these two, but anywho, so it gives you in kanji, but you're meant to know that that's the term that we had in the series. That's always been, um it's it's devil hunter. Yeah. So like I said, I just find it so cool how the writing system is used to give you so much info. So going back to our initial chapter. Okay, so I think I explained, and hopefully you understood the whole that um, this sentence here was pretty straightforward, and you also understood that, like I said, I gave in the translation at the bottom. I wrote um, both of the readings, so you can make the connection of what V is trying to say. Okay, so let's move on to the next page because we have. So here we have V uh, remarking, or so his first line here, he's saying, そうだな, which can be interpreted as, how did I put it in? That's right. So in a way, it's like he's saying, like he's, confirming. He could also be saying like some, let's say, oh yes, um, that's how this went, because in his second line here, um, he's saying, so in this way, in this manner, like this, koyatte, so like this, um, and this part here is saying that, I think I had a bit of trouble here because if, like, what pronouns I was supposed to put, like, I kind of wondered if V would have said this about himself, or he was more directing it at little Virgil, although technically they're the same. But, and if you know that, regarding pronouns in Japanese, sometimes they're omitted, so you have to rely on context. And I had to take into consideration here, like, who is he talking about? So was V talking about himself, or he was saying this for little Virgil? I think in the end I put that he was referring to Virgil, saying that, uh, like this, like acting in this manner. So he was saying that this is what you kept on doing. You continued to avert your eyes. I think it was in the sense of, or I think no, I think it was more another word for ignoring. So that's why I stayed. I like better how it sounded like you kept averting your eyes or your gaze. Dalucard, I'm not sure honestly if I'll be able to do that. Like, trust me, I know. Like, I know very well that that the first novel has some issues, but I don't know if I will ever do a whole translation of it. Like, I ever get the time to do it. I have fragments. You maybe you or maybe you have not seen them. I have a couple of fragments that I posted on Twitter regarding some lines, but yeah. So along with the DMC free manga and the first novel, that's what I gave an example so many times, that official, pieces that suffered from very um, poor localization. Like, there was not much care put into it, and there were like major differences. um, I haven't finished the first novel, so I never had the time to. I know what happens because I've known like the summary for it for a long time, but I never got to like read it um, properly. I only just like read the beginning couple of pages, and if I had an interest for certain scenes, but I just didn't have time for that one because it's a pretty lengthy thing, and I was always occupied with finding just handling other pieces of media, and handling for other fandoms and such. I just never got too much to go into that. Okay, Stingy, no problem. Uh, go, go and rest. Um, I don't know what hour is at your place, but yeah, go and get some sleep. And if you still wanna, you can watch this later. Uh, so yeah, that's the issue with the first novel. Like I said, who knows? Maybe one day when I have time and when I start again to read it more properly, I'll make my notes for it because it's probably gonna have a bunch of alterations that yeah, yes, I know very well just about the differences in the DMC free manga. I know them very well. That's why on a few occasions I would always recommend for the fan translations to be read because it's way more closer. Uh, I mean, it just gives like the actual uh, meanings. Like, I know I posted like an example that I posted some time ago, like the way they made Dante speak, especially like for God's sake, in the localization, he kind of sounds like he would be more like the DMC free reboot Dante. Yes, I'm calling him. For me, Dante is Dante, OG Dante, and DMC reboot, for which I don't care, is he will be Dante. That's how I call him. So, moving on. Okay, I covered this page. Next. Oh, oh my God, this page. It's so beautiful, like how um how he calls um so he calls the book, or more like so the book is the embodiment of his heart. A note here that this is something that even I cannot explain very well and will require if you are interested in reading. But when the first time I saw the page, I was like, should I? I wonder if it's really with this meaning. So the word that I'm referring to is the word heart, which here this kanji. You probably heard this a lot in anime and manga. It's kokoro. So it's usually translated as heart, but depending on context, it can even be translated as spirit or soul or mind. Actually, the concept, so what kokoro means, it actually, if you look into it, it will say that it kind of embodies all of these things. So heart, mind, soul, and spirit. And in Japanese, there are other words that can express these things, but kokoro is a bit more. It's a bit more complex to explain. That's why I would say that you can look into it if you're interested. Ultimately, I did put the heart, let's say, instead of soul, because usually, so common words that you would hear in anime manga, like with kokoro being heart, and usually for soul, it would be tamashi. So since it wasn't that here, I didn't go with soul here, so I just left heart. So he's saying that V is saying that this is my heart, and over here the first word is past, so the past. Then he trails off a bit and he says omoide, which is memories. So trailing off is saying so the past, the memories that uh, and calling the book here. So I have a word here, shocho, which means symbol or representation. So because I edited this video, I've added this part where I talk about what I consider a callback from chapter 11 regarding what V said about the book, calling it his heart. I will mention that there was a small mistranslation made by the initial scanlation team in the first line here, which I wrote about a long time ago on Twitter. They apparently misread the verb, most likely because the kanji for the verb to pick up, like how it was written in the translation, looks similar to the actual kanji in the text, which means to throw away, discard, or abandon, and some people believe that what V was talking about here was that time when he was born, when he was at the house and found his book there. However, that's not the case, because this line would be translated like this. From that day when I left this behind, was there ever a time that was worth wishing for eternity? So, like I said, the correct verb here was to throw away, and he was referring to that day, the time when Virgil, Dante, and Eva were attacked by demons. The last line I translated as Virgil threw away the embodiment of sentimentality, or more directly, sentimentality itself. By the way, here the scanlation team translated correctly the verb. It's the same verb as in the previous line, to throw away. We also have something interesting here, which is the emphasis placed on Virgil's name that would have been possible to convey in the translation. Here in the Japanese text, these brackets are the equivalent of quotation marks, and if I had translated this chapter, I would have put his name in quotes or italics to convey the emphasis, because even though V is part of Virgil, he has his memories. At that time, he wasn't Virgil entirely, and that's why he was making a distinction. He didn't say I through the book, he says Virgil. So, yeah, I hope that what I explained about this part was helpful. So, let's go back to the last chapter. Yes, I know. I've seen people on Twitter too, and talking about it, and this too, and it's so touching. Like um, saying that the book is a representation of his heart, and he entrusted his heart to Nero. That's so sweet. Okay, and if I recall, and I translate it as so a symbol for the things that will never come back or never return. So the the past, the memories. Maybe he was actually thinking of the past as in like, most likely the good old days, like just most likely the ones before the day they were got attacked by the demons. Okay, and now here we have Virgil speaking. Here most likely we see him remembering the fire, that burned down his house, and telling that it was just too much to bear. It was painful to hold on, like to the memory, to the memories and to that past. So too unbearable, because all of that, it says that all of that reminded him of his own lack lack of power, helplessness. So that's why he tried so much to get away from them, to run away from nightmares, from everything, so he wouldn't be um, reminded of them. So moving on here, like I said, here he kept um, he kept repeating a few times. So he was saying that I have to, or it can also mean I must. So, but I put it as I have to um, I have to forget. So also noting here that it's a compound word, so it's not saying simply just the verb to forget, which is this part here. So the verb to forget in Japanese is wasureru. Um, it has more of a we have the word here is wasuresaru. I'm giving the basic the dictionary form that I pronounced. So it kind of it puts another description to how like a verb is made, and these two together. So being that there are two verbs together, and this one kind of um, gives it a more emphasis on how it describes the first one. So it mean if the first one means to forget, the second one means uh, to leave. So it has this sense. There are other verbs that could be made with this verb at the end. So it's not. You might not think it's a big difference, um, but there's this nuance that it's trying to say that like to get them out and forget and leave behind. So trying to totally take them out from his mind, to discard them, yeah, so I covered like the first panel here. So this one was where he kept saying that I have to, let's say, kind of banish them from thought. I have to forget, and here he has to say that I have to discard them, or to throw away. Again, he repeats it. I have to throw away, which I kind of changed up a bit, and I added some. I said get rid of. Okay, and then the next time we have him seen with it's very, I don't know how to explain this either. Just so how this choice of making the representation of his nightmares being these many corpses following him like that. So he's saying here that if I don't, I can't escape from these nightmares. So this is the continuation of the last line from the previous page. I have to get rid of them. If I don't, I can't escape from the nightmares. Here I'm well, it's a bit ambiguous because that this is also a thing in Japanese. You unless with certain helping words, usually you don't know when some things are in the singular or in the plural. So I went with the plural here, so saying that he can escape from nightmares only because, for example, if we take into account, that he had, while as V, there were the nightmares, Griffin Shadow Nightmare, and there were more of them. I just also put it at for being the plural. So again, you can take it as fact saying that I can't run from this nightmare or from these nightmares. Um. Okay, so like we seen Virgil running away from the nightmares, and he's so his. I see here V is doing this gesture of covering his eyes to maybe um I say like shield him. So shielding him to give him maybe a moment of respite to have their conversation. And he says I translate here as um, foolishness. So regarding here, I also had translating these lines also took a bit of time because um, given the fact that we're dealing with like two sides of the same person here, and like I mentioned earlier with the whole sometimes it can be kind of difficult as to what pronouns to use, but given the, let's say, clue that I had here in the second speech bubble and seeing that the subject is I, so here it's V is saying something about himself, though I kind of wondered if even here like his first line could be applied to him or if he's just only referring to what Virgil said. So basic meaning of what he said here, while while saying while saying that the past is unneeded or it's not necessary. So I actually think, wait, I think in my translation I didn't put a pronoun at all there, and just saying um, readers could infer even without it. So even if I had to put like a pronoun and say, even if you claim that the past is not necessary, um, and then V goes on to say that for a long time, since a long time, from a long time, I have always well, this year where I got a bit confused. So I put in my translation. I said I always had to watch my back. At the very first time when I saw the image and then read the first time properly, all the sentences, I thought he was saying that I thought he was saying something like I always had to watch your back, something like that. But I had to like read, the sentence a few times to understand just from like whose perspective is he talking about. So the fact that I have at least one pronoun here and it's I, so it's speaking of him. Um, I came to a conclusion that he's saying that I always and if you think about it, if he's like saying for himself that I, it kind of applies to like at the same time with the Virgil too, I would say. So I always had to be mindful. Oh, good lord. Yeah, if you possibly if you possibly heard um jackpot in the background, it was my phone. That's my notification sound, and I forgot to turn it off. So okay, where was I? So like I say, I always had to watch my back, look behind me. So even saying that it's probably referring to how I try to outrun, like to get away from those nightmares. Saying I want to get away from them, he's there was still this still looking back, like always had to be be cautious of the whole thing. Um, and the V continues on to say that, well, if if that was the case, like if I um if I still kept like doing that, like I tried to run, but yet I would still be concerned, like always watching behind me, then it would have been better if I would just face them. So face them head on, look square in the eye. I think he kind of used this sort of something similar that he said before. I think it was in chapter 24, I believe. Yeah, so it was chapter 24 when he was also in his kind of like mindscape and talking to Urizen and saying that he'll face his nightmares. Then we see like the nightmares disappearing, and V is V is now telling him that I no longer fear the nightmares. I'm no longer afraid of them. And this part here was interesting. Like I didn't know how else I could phrase it. It's just pretty um, straightforward of what he's saying here. So so in the first line, he's saying that mm, my heart. So again, it's referring to his heart. Um, he's saying that his heart will is is able. So what we have here, the way he phrases it. So to give like a, let's say, a textbook translation, it would be like, as for my heart. So his heart is the topic. So the one who um in this case here performs, let's say, the actions. And he's saying that it is my heart uh, that will that is capable or will be able, because the way he so he uses a verb that means that denotes capability, and says that um, my heart will protect me. So I put it like very straightforward in my translation as well. I mean, it seemed like the best way to just leave it as it is, just like the author wanted it. I mean, he's just basically saying that now his heart is much stronger now. Okay, next page. Oh, and this one, my God, I love this one so much. I also wrote on Twitter about it. It's just so beautiful. It's just such a sweet moment. It's like looking at a parent with a child. And on Twitter, I wrote stuff regarding some of um, the lines that we know that V quoted from Blake in the game. I associated like this part, if you know that in the game he quotes the little angel that presided over my birth um said, go forth a little. I hope I remember it right. I said, go forth, go love without anything on earth. Also, it's interesting that so I don't remember them exactly, but also these had originally had a few words that were replaced, which I try to give an interpretation for it. Um, there's something here, like let's say like a symbol that's uh, I would say is very meaningful, and that's why I tried to express as much as I could from the line in Japanese. And then it got me. It reminded me of something that I made notes about some time ago, because like I said, there were just some words sometimes that were so um uh so here we have the saying, um the first time, so like I said, I tried as much as I could to keep um what it says in the Japanese text. So in the first line, um he's saying he's saying like no longer. So I wrote it as that's why. That's I wrote firstly that's why, because his sentence starts by with dakara, which implies that he's giving an explanation, a reason, and this his whole sentence dakara mo, this mo implies um well, you gotta look at the whole sentence what kind of follows after it, but um so it implies something with the no longer, which I put here in the second one, so it made its way there because that's how I parsed the sentence. So he's saying that, and again reminding that sometimes we don't know if sometimes it can be a singular or it can be a plural. I went with plural when I said hands, but he could also just been saying in this hand of yours. Let's say that's what he was trying to say. So, or in your hands, and then saying that what what remained. So whatever things remained left in your hands, you don't have to try to throw them away anymore. So there's also this nuance here through the words that he used, to that he doesn't need, no longer has to try or attempt to throw away what what remained or whatever he still has left in his grasp, in his hand. So I don't know, I just find this part was awesome, how what it conveyed based on the the following pages. Like I said, it just makes the connection, by here by saying, with hands. So what's left, and we have here Virgil, who is looking at his hand, and saying, um in in this hand or these hands can, uh and then trailing off here with saying what is left, what's still remaining. So he's looking at his hands, and then we have the flashback here. Like, oh my god, this panel was, oh, it destroyed me. What still remained for him, then remembering he how he refused, Dante's hand, but again, he did it just so he could stop Dante from not following him, because all he wanted was, he cared for his well-being, and he wanted him to stay um, in the human world. So, oh my god, this was just so emotional. And seeing Dante's expression like that, just what um Virgil Vir- Virgil remembers. So again, I just loved how it showed how it used the imagery with the hands here. Okay, so what was next after this? Okay, okay, so we had here little Virgil who is saying that what V was saying there was nonsense, doesn't believe it, and says that uh, he, I actually had a bit of problem here because of how it was phrased and all, but hopefully I did get to the right conclusion by saying that um, he was saying here that it would have been better if either one of us would have considered that it was best if we were um, alone. So I put it as, how did I put it? As either of us would have been better off alone. Yeah, that's how I put it. Um, and here, um, I hopefully it's noticeable in the translation that I made that the way I formatted, like I put it as he also must think the same, that I put emphasis on the word he. So I know that he's talking about Dante, but again, I'm trying to keep, because, I mean, the author here, um, they could have just as easily put Dante's name in there, but um, instead they went with the aitsu, which means usually it means just him or that person, that person mostly. So here in this context is mostly like he. So we know who he's talking about, but again, there were occasions like that I recall that they wouldn't call each other by their name, and they would just put these pronouns. So why not keep it? Just trying to, if it's possible, I try to keep as much as I can. So and after that, V um V saying that, well, is that true, or I wonder, um maybe, well, this is just my guess, or what I imagine, because that was another word for it. Um, and then I gotta say, I got a bit uh this first the lines here were a bit troublesome. Like, I know I kind of spent a bit on this, on what he was trying to say here. So in the first line, when he's asking if he had if it was possible to choose, or like given the choice, and again, like I said, doesn't call him by his name, doesn't say Dante. Again, it's just saying Aizu, which is that person, or in this case, him, as I put it, or no, I put he. Sorry, I put he in the translation. Um, so if he had were to have the possibility uh, of choosing, and here's what I wasn't quite sure about, because I haven't let's say seen this in context, if you can actually refer it, you can use it like this. But to me, to sound, for what I choose to have a nice flow, I said that so if he could choose if he could choose, he would want to be he would choose to be your twin once more, your twin again. So because I also believe that the sentence can be someone understood So like I put in the translation, I said that he would probably choose to be your twin again, but it could also be understood that he would probably choose um, regarding being twins. So either saying like he would choose to be your twin again, or he would choose like, so he's asking hypothetically, like, I know in the scenario that if they would be reborn again, maybe that's what he was implying here, that kind of thing. That if he he wants you you and him to be uh, twins again, he would choose that. Oh gosh, I haven't expressed myself so well. So choosing that path, like him being his twin, he wouldn't change this thing. Like he wouldn't go for not not having a brother, or being older, or anything. They want them to be twins again. Um, and well, Virgil's asking why, and we get cute cute flashback of them trashing their house. Look at them with books flying everywhere, a chair, some pillows. Oh God, Eva must have scolded them on a daily basis. For Mama. Checking the chat a bit. Hel- Hello, new people. Thank you for joining. And I think I'm like halfway. Am I halfway through uh, the manga? Because I kept elaborating on the dialogue as best as I could here. Um, um, okay, so going to the last line here. So where Virgil was asking like why. So he's asking why do you say that? Why do you think that he would why would he want that? And to which V replies, pretty straightforward. That's how I left it as well, saying that because you can fight, because you can have them even fight as kids, just how they play basically. He probably his reply from V is that it's because that you two can fight. I think in this sense he's trying to say that you're his match, you're his equal. Like no one else could be um, on the same say level to match what they can do. So and I just found this so I just love this part so much for being for V, like again still part of Virgil being um more sincere and saying that, like knowing that for a fact that Dante choose would choose him to be Braz again, and he'll have no one else, because um they they're a match. They can be like uh, complete opposites, but they are there for one another. Only the other can be on the level as the other one, and they can uh have like the best fights that they want to kick each other's asses how much they want, much like what they've been doing at the end of the game. They were just two happy idiots who could have their play fights. So we had V saying that Dante was coming, that he was approaching, and Virgil asking here. Virgil is asking him, so does Dante he wants to fight again. So this Dante want to fight again. V replies with naturally, and I gotta say that even here, like I wanted to specifically leave in naturally and not the typical other usual translations for this word that would be like, of course, it's obvious. I went with naturally just because I thought about thinking of Dante and Virgil and just what is their nature. So I just made that connection, with them. It's in their nature, to like how they act to one another with their fights and all that. And yeah, that was kind of my reason just for leaving in naturally. Sounded very, I know, uh, something that V would say. Just me making, that connection. Sorry if my explanation wasn't all that good. And then here he's saying that he could either be saying he, as in Dante, has always has been like that, or he's just saying it's always been like this, like something which is natural for us, you know. Oh, and I like this part too because this little tsundere, I like that he admitted, V is asking, so do you do you not like fighting with your little brother? And then, uh, Virgil is taking a bit of his time here, like, and then, I like it actually, yeah. So finally admitting, it's like that. It was so cute for him to admit it, saying "ski da yo." Then here we have him. We have V, who this is awesome that just so before the fight we now know that V was like encouraging, kind of like go for it, my son, in that sort of way. Encouraged him to fight. Thank you, Jake. I'm glad to hear you say that. How much thought I put into the words. So going back, we have V, who who is encouraging um, Virgil here, who's just they're about to be like reformed and be reborn as Virgil anew, and he's saying, well, if if you say so, if that's the case, well then, uh, go on and go fight, go, my son. And oh my god, this part here, like, I laughed because it was a word that recently I heard in the Devil May Cry anime, and it was something that Patty said. And it's funny because so here V was kind of trying to, like, let's say, insult, tease Dante. And it's funny that like a coincidence that in the anime there was also one time where Patty also used the same word for Dante, because she would berate him on many occasions for an adult like you just eating pizza and strawberry sundaes. Like, seriously, Dante. There was at some point she also used this very word, which can be translated as tactless, insensitive. Yeah, I think it was like insensitive would be common. I mean, in Japanese, so it's written in katakana. It's actually an English word, delicacy. So, like I said, it's mostly common translations for it would be, like I said, thoughtless or tactless. I was just going like through a list of synonyms of what could work. I don't know, maybe if what I put there was the best choice. I know I put foolhardy, which kind of meant also like brash, which I thought that it kind of fitted, and I kind of imagined that it's something that uh, Virgil would say about his little brother. So I just left that there. So he's telling like go and go and kick your little brother's ass there. Mm, kick the ass of your foolhardy, foolish little brother. So the the teasing the or the insult had to stay. So and I think I put it as go give him a good beating. Ototo bu nagutte, like more like very literal would have been more like with punches, something like that. But here I just meant like give him a good trashing, in that sense. Uh, he was he was so looking forward to kick his ass. I love these dorks. I really do hope that I captured the meaning here because it's something that it's not so easy to explain. I mean, reading it in Japanese in my mind, I can't understand what it means, but it's not as easy to express. Let me recall because I know I would have phrased it differently. So my other options. So I think ultimately I translated it as you will go show him who's the strongest. Isn't that right? Because we have here like the word for strong. It's so he's saying that you'll be going in what manner. So I'm trying to dissect and analyze how the phrase would go. Like you will be going in a manner the best at the finest, so something like that. Because there is also another word here that means in one's style, which this was kind of a bit hard to convey, and but all of that to me it kind of conveyed that he was trying to say like show him, like go and show him who's like the best and show him what now you have um become, because after this whole journey night he would gain Virgil would be reborn, you have would probably think himself as much stronger. I think this was something that he mentioned in some previous chapters. This is the chapter that I was thinking about. It's chapter 31, and here we had V saying that even if he obtained a semblance of power, like how I wrote it, so implying a small amount, a modicum of strength, it wouldn't have been enough. Saying here that he wouldn't be able to become a version of himself that can defeat or win against Dante. Here we have emphasis placed on the pronoun ore, which means I. And the way I wrote it was, I won't be able to become the me that can defeat Dante. So he was saying that um, even with a semblance of power, by looking away from his weaknesses, what he mentioned previously in the chapter, he won't become the version of himself that can win against his brother. I hope I explained it well enough, and you could see how this part is related to what I was talking about regarding the last chapter about being strong. Most likely, we believed that Virgil would become that version of himself that can win against Dante, like he mentioned in chapter 31. Okay, so back to the last chapter. And then we get to the part where V quotes for the last time some lines from a Blake poem, and it when I saw it like the first time, I was like, oh my god, what poem is this? Like, let me see how will I find it. I had to put in like the keywords that I would see here. So it had the word either to laugh or to smile, and here it would say to sing. So I just typed in there, and I managed to find. So it was from Infant Joy. Okay, so like from Japanese, how it's adapted in Japanese. Here it says, so like the first line in English, um, the original poem is, "Thou dost smile, I sing, I sing the while." There are probably some other adaptations because there are more translations for the poems. Probably in some they might be using some more art, a bit more of a outdated, archaic language, but here it's simply saying, so in the first line saying that, so in English was a thou does smile. Here it just plainly just means that you that you smile, or in this case at first you could, even if you don't know like the original poem, it could also mean to laugh. So warau means to laugh or to smile. You're smiling, and um, I sing. So pretty basic here. And the last lines are, sweet joy befall thee. So in Japanese, it sounds like, so it adds, let's say, a please here, because of this word. It's like something that you use where you ask like kindly, or you like even like in a like a prayer, in a wish, because he's saying that, so connecting with the others, that you are smiling, I'm singing, and for your uh for your joy, um I'm hoping, or so for your joy I'm hoping that, and it continues here, I'm hoping that it will be everlasting, so that it will continue forever. There's a construction here that's used to when you want to say that you hope for something or you wish for something. So I hope, I I wish, I pray for your for everlasting joy, which I mean this is pretty cool how they adapted. Okay, so yeah, it was pretty nice how they I was adapted here in Japanese. Then we have V. We're saying goodbye to V. Oh, goodbye, sequence. And then we have the return of the king. Hi, Virgil. Oh man, man, the art style is so freaking awesome. Like, gosh, Nogata Sensei, you're so amazing. So cool how it adapted here, like how it was in the game. Oh man, my god. Man, it's been like what, 2 days? It destroyed me so much. So much. So so there they are. Probably in his world there, the world of V. And probably there's still like a remnant left there of how the how the free nightmares they were left behind, but they were no longer more like nightmares. They actually became like companions. My god, the way I was when it was posted a few days ago, how I cried at it because it was just so beautiful. And now we have, maybe Ogata will give us a few bonuses, something extra, maybe expand on something when we're gonna have a volume in May and another one in July, and maybe they'll Gada will add some extra pages or something, but we will see. Oh God, man, I'm feeling sad again, going going through it again. So yeah, that's uh that's about it. Um, I I hope that uh me trying to break down, analyzing the dialogue helped you to trying to find my words, um made you understand some things better, um and you got to know just how my process was when I was doing these translations, what things I would need to take into account. Like I said, the context and knowing sometimes what, or if I could have my fun and put some reference there that hopefully some fans will pick on. I had to take a lot of things into account, like I said, context, as you have seen, special readings. Sometimes that gives you so much more information that um, you have to make decisions to see like if it flows good in in the translation, if you could add them, or if their place would be like after as a note. That's what I did for the past few years for this manga and uh, all other materials that I've translated for DMC. Has been awesome. I guess I'm sad that it was over, but I had fun, and thank you for giving them a read. Many of you told me that you liked the way I would translate them and that the notes helped because I just wanted to make known and to offer as much as I could uh, in terms of like information, um, for us to know the lore better, because that's my main interest with the lore. I tried my best again to provide as much, and that's why whenever I felt that maybe it requires more explanation, tried my best to do it, just so things that you all might appreciate better regarding the stories and the characters. Hopefully, always. So since I took it as a project on my own. Oh gosh, I'm gonna cry again. Hopefully, I did justice for all this time that I've translated this manga. That I hope so many of you have enjoyed to read like I did. So yeah, I don't know what else to say anymore. So I'm gonna end the stream, and just want to say thanks again for the few people that have joined, and hopefully you have found it interesting. And yeah, if you want to read my stuff, they're on Twitter, they are on Tumblr. I also post on Reddit, but not as much, but mainly on Twitter and through all my other um, DM, DMC translations. So, yeah, I'll be ending the stream. Have a good a good day or a good night, depending on where you are. It's night for me. And yeah, that's about it. Bye bye.